What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Figure It Out of the Basement's Black Series Talk Show. I'm Nate, joined with Justin.
What's up, guys?
And today we're going to be talking about the most expensive Black Series figure of all time and what it says about prequel desirability.
Exactly.
Justin, this is more so your episode, so I'm going to kind of hand the reins off to you and you're going to guide me through. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new.
Of course. So I was watching a YouTube video, the Nerdzoic channel. They do a yearly top 10 most expensive Black Series figures. Mm-hmm. Here at Out of the Basement, we have never cared about aftermarket value. We don't collect for value. If you're going to put your kids through college buying action figures, not a good idea. It's too unpredictable. You can't really gauge, generally speaking, what's going to be like $250 for a $20 action figure.
Right. Especially stuff like modern mass-produced figures, things like that. I mean, look at what happened the last time people tried to collect Star Wars specifically for value, Power of the Force. How'd that work out?
One of the most worthless lines. I mean, it's great.
It's a great line of figures, but they are
very cheap.
Legitimately almost valueless.
Mm-hmm. And everyone uses Action Figure 411. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they take an average of eBay sold auctions. Okay. So the price that the buyer ended up paying, and they average a bunch of different auctions. They also include Amazon listing price just for funsies, but the average for the most part, it is eBay sold auctions. So I'm normally not that interested in this type of content that's most valuable items, because I'm I don't collect for value, but I watched it, and the number one, I just had an epiphany with what was the number one most valuable. And I started looking at value through a different lens. I started looking at it not so much I gotta resell, but looking at value as desirability. And I was like, man, people are really frothing at the mouth for these types of figures. Nate, aside from the first edition Mandalorian, which I infamously passed on in that one vlog.
True, you could see it.
Not counting exclusives or deluxe packs, con exclusive stuff, the only two figures other than the first edition Mandalorian to consistently hover above the $100 price point right now are both versions of Revenge of the Sith Anakin Skywalker, both the orange line and the archive.
It's kind of hilarious that number 1 and 2 most expensive Black Series figures are both Anakin.
Yeah, not counting first edition Mando. And it changes.
Yeah.
It's always updating information. So if you look at it now, it might say something different. But right now, the orange line is averaging for $104.85, and the archive as of this moment is higher with $106.15. Again, this is an average of eBay sold listings. But you can also take a look at those Amazon listings. They're $250 or something crazy.
Even more inflated.
Prime shipping.
Yeah, $289. Prime shipping. What a bargain.
It is insane. Archive. It's supposed to be hey, we know this is super expensive on the aftermarket, or, at least we know this is a super sought after figure. It's a refresh, get it back in the line. But now these archive figures are becoming super expensive. Archive Anakin being in the top 3 non-exclusive consistently. And not only that, I mean, you can look at other archive figures, such as the second most expensive archive figure is Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. So that kind of just blows my mind by itself. Kind of a side note, just the fact that archive, which was supposed to be padded out a bit, now they're rising and they're just as expensive.
Yeah, so ultimately archive didn't really solve the problem it sought out to solve, because it was just very temporary for people who were collecting around that time.
Yeah, and it's people just now joining, and it's I could get a Darth Maul.
You'd think they would have treated the archive line more like something oh, okay, it's another year. We're going to release these figures again this year, and just like maybe do them once a year,
like a permanent sort of thing. Yeah,
right. Because there's new collectors every day, and it's completely ridiculous that the most expensive figure in the entire line is the main character.
Yeah, of arguably the entire saga, at least, you know, Anakin Skywalker, he's in, technically, the character is in episodes 1 through 6. He's in 7 seasons of television. He's in a micro series, very influential character. And it just kind of dawned on me as I was watching that video, the amount of prequel figures that are super expensive. I mean, you could also look at figures like Rex.
Yep.
You know, number 59 Rex, or something like Echo. You know, one mainline, one exclusive, doesn't matter. It's prequel era content. It's gonna go up in price. But it really dawned on me as I was watching this video. I was like, prequel character. Like the number one most sought after. Like, people are frothing at the mouth, paying these insane prices for a prequel character. What does that say about the desirability of getting more prequel characters in the Black Series, Nate?
Right, because also, just as a minor side note, and something that kind of sparked this topic as well, is just we have it on good authority that it is very difficult for the Black Series team to actually get prequel figures made. Like, the people who truly make the decisions are a little stuck in their ways.
Apprehensive to prequel stuff. I think what it is we all have the idea that the original trilogy is timeless, which it is.
Yeah.
It is masterful and some of the most influential sci-fi space fantasy films ever made, and they are masterpieces. Timeless, correct, but all of Star Wars is timeless. I also think they're like new media. It's hot and fresh. Strike while the iron is hot. But it's like the prequel era, as we've said before, it's like a lot of kids who grew up with the prequels are now adults, and we are adult collectors now. So I think there is a huge desirability for prequel era content, and that's what it kind of was when I started to look through the lens, when I'm looking at value as not for just like reselling, but looking at it as desirability. I was like, a lot of prequel stuff is super expensive on the aftermarket, because when people jump in, they're like, I need an Anakin.
Right.
I need a Revenge of the Sith Anakin. It's some of the most iconic Star Wars of all time, Anakin and Obi-Wan, you know, the final duel and everything. So I just made that connection, and I was like, man, like Disney, Lucasfilm, Hasbro, whoever it is, check on some of these aftermarket prices, and you will see that people are really, really wanting prequel characters.
Right. So yeah, especially when it's becoming more and more apparent that Hasbro is just looking to absolutely maximize that dollar, squeeze every last drop out.
50%.
That they wouldn't see that people are willing to pay over $100 for one figure. You'd think they'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, something that retailed for $20.
They're like, people are willing to pay $100 for it? Might send the wrong message, but in all honesty, you kind of look at it and you're like, I mean, look, you could do a new Anakin, give him an extra head, give him a soft goods cloak, you know.
That's kind of the thing that sucks the most, is that the most expensive Black Series figure is a terrible figure.
True, Revenge of the Sith Anakin is trash. The likeness isn't very good, and the articulation is horrible too. We all know that there could be a much better figure if it was made today. So it makes you wonder, why not just do it? Revenge of the Sith doesn't have any Galaxy packaging figures. Ooh. Why not start it out with a bang with a newly tooled Revenge of the Sith Anakin and a newly tooled Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan? Because let's face it, the archive of Obi-Wan did not solve that figure's problems. It's still a piece of trash.
Yeah, and it's like, I have the idea as well, like, oh, maybe they're waiting for 2025 for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. But I don't care. Star Wars is timeless. It is relevant all of the time, always. So I just feel like it would be okay. It would still be worth it to release something like a new Anakin. That is the most expensive figure in the line. We could get a 2023 version of Anakin, and I know they could kill it. And it just sucks that they're so focused on new media. I really don't know who to direct it to, like Lucasfilm, Disney, Hasbro.
Right.
We know Disney, Lucasfilm, they have a hand. You know, they're pulling the strings of what characters to make. That is totally accurate. But even from the perspective of someone at Disney, Lucasfilm, it's still good, solid evidence of desirability.
Right.
So why not just let them make some more prequel stuff?
Exactly. I think there could still be a mix. You know, we can still get plenty of new media figures. We can still get plenty of original trilogy. We can still get plenty of prequel figures and sequel figures for people who want those. But you're absolutely right. When Hasbro just seems to continue, they just go OT or new media, specifically new media. I mean, I love Mando to death, and I am still a firm believer of give me all the Mandalorian figures possible. But even I can admit that when you have 30-something figures for one show and you have none for one of the main movies in the saga.
And I get that it's like profit driven, and it's like, oh, well, they're doing that because Mando is new and it's hot. But the whole point here is look at those aftermarket, look what people are paying after the figures have had their runs.
Right.
Look at all these prequel figures. Whatever it is, again, Rex, Echo, like whatever, Anakin.
Yeah, and then go look at any of the new media figures. Most of them float around original retail price. A few of them have climbed up there. But for the most part, you look at any new media figure and they're practically around retail price.
And they're newer figures, and Orange Line Anakin is 10 years old, but you could also look at more recent prequel figures, and they're still going $40, $50, $60, $70, $80. So
yeah,
look at that. Look at those aftermarket prices. I think once you look at it through that different lens of desirability over just like resale value, you'll start to see like, oh,
yeah,
the most expensive figure of the entire line is something we barely get any of, and that's a prequel figure.
Yep. And so there you have it. That's all we've got for you this week on Figure It Out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new, because we're always talking about Star Wars, the Black Series here on the channel. If you'd like to support us in a more direct manner, we do also offer a channel membership for 99 cents a month. We also have a small collection of merch. There are links for everything down in the description of this video. Big shout out and special thank you to our channel members. Your continued support is truly appreciated. Thank you to everyone else out there for watching. I'm Nate. I've been joined with Justin.
See you guys later.
And we will see you next time on Out of the Basement.